Hello guys!
Hello!
And welcome to Swanky Paint Alpha+6, which is the recent update that we've released just yesterday.
Yeah, we made an actual release.
Yay! So we had some free time and did some, actual bug fixing and a lot of features. I think there's a lot of features.
There are, from the last one we did, which was the beginning of this year,
Ooh.
there's quite a bit in there, and we're not going to remember all the stuff that we've changed, but we're going to try and at least mention some of it.
Cool.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, I'll go with the stuff that I just added because I can remember that. So, one of the things that I added was a scanline filter type stuff, which, if we switch that over to scan, I don't know if you can even see that because the video is so terrible. No, it doesn't make any difference at all on what's being recorded. But if you look at it on the actual screen, maybe if I bump that up.
Oh yeah, there you go.
You can see that it goes from pixels, scanline, pixels, scanline, and the scanline, it does a little bit of blending side-by-side colours and darkens lines above and below. So it gives it that sort of old
TV retro look from 19
everything.
19 everything.
19
yeah.
everything.
Like Max Headroom is back or something. But yes.
And that can be used while you're drawing or to export the fat pixel modes of what you have drawn, so you can get it in.
Yeah. So that's one of the things. As you can tell, the menu has a lot of new stuff. It looks like Alpha+6 is at the top.
One of the things I forgot to change was that number. that number was up here somewhere, yeah. That number. Forgot to change that number. We'll do it next time by adding 2. That's a secret technique.
So yeah, you've changed the pixel fatness to having a X and Y instead of the big square.
Thing, yeah, because I wanted more space to put some stuff in, but then I didn't get around to putting any stuff in, so it's just like that now. But there's another mode as well, which is the Trixel mode, which wasn't in the last one.
Oh, it wasn't?
Oh no, this is new.
Oh, right. So
I think
it's just a developer thing. No, we have
was
it.
it? Was
yes.
it in the last one?
Yes.
Okay, well I didn't add that.
You've got hack mode at the bottom
Hack
there.
mode, yeah, you don't want to touch the hack mode. The hack mode was for a hack, which if you see down there, which renders the screen in, I can't even get the front of it, it's around there somewhere.
Keep going.
No. Oh, there it is. It's that one. Oh, I thought I had it. There we go, it's around there. Which renders the screen as point sprites, and it's designed for doing actual 3D pixels, which was supposed to be on a 3D cube, but it was quite tiny, so it was like a 8x8x8.
Yeah.
This is not 8x8x8.
You couldn't put that many interesting pictures in there because you're very limited to what you could do.
It was just a quick preview, and I think I'll do some sort of magical 3D mapping thing so that you can paint textures and look at a 3D image a preview at some point in the future, so you can draw a magical, the old 256 by 256 texture onto a very low res sort of polygon type thing, which would be great. Anyway, yes, so we've got scan mode, and as well we also added some attribute clash modes, which also work with the scan mode. And what that does is reduces the number of colours that can be displayed in kind of very technical specifications. So I've got enough in there that I can do it for the Spectrum and the Commodore 64 character modes. So let me do the Commodore 64 actually.
Ooh, presets.
Switch to preset. You say new, and you get it looks remarkably like a Commodore 64 to me already.
Oh, look at those colours.
Yeah.
There's some big fat pixels.
The big fat pixels, they're twice as wide as they are tall, because it's a multicolour mode, which is the only screen mode worth doing. And the other thing is, you only get sort of 3 colours per 4x8 block. So 4 pixels wide, 8 pixels high, on the screen, a character, basically, you can only have 4 colours in them. One of them is the background, which is preset, and you have to choose that already. It's currently set to black. So black is allowed everywhere. But you'll see that these bits, when it gets more stuff in, it'll start going a bit strange, because it can't have that many colours, so it starts deleting them as you draw them to keep the number of colours down to the required free magic colours inside every character. And that's retro.
That's
precise.
Simulation. It's actual simulation of.
So if you're trying to make a loading screen on a Commodore 64, this was the exact restrictions that you had to be dealing with.
Yeah.
So we have the mode for the Commodore 64 mode, which is 1 background colour, any 3 colours in each 4x8 block. The pixels are twice as wide as they are tall. And that. There's also the Spectrum mode, which is fairly similar. It's Spectrum, the new, different palette, obviously, because it's the Spectrum palette. And you can see the Spectrum one is sort of really harsh, in that you only get 2 colours for every 8x8 block, but at least your pixels are square. That's a plus point. But you'll see as soon as you sort of kind of draw into there a little bit.
You should do a bigger one. This is as small as it gets. It doesn't get a bigger brush.
Well, I can do a bigger brush.
So it's more obvious.
But you can see that the attribute clash is, every 8x8 only gets 2 colours, and you see the background being yellow. You get 1 colour's drawn on top of it, essentially. If you draw like a really huge area, then it selects, that colour as the background. You can put a different one inside. But let me just see that horrible, strange, the blocky. That is pure Spectrum. That is. And the other thing is, although there's like 16 colours here, you only actually get 8 technically, because although you can choose 2 for each 8x8, it's got to be from the bright set or the dark set. So the brightness is you can't mix. You can't mix the bright red with the dark red. No, that would be too easy. You can't do any graphics that would be easy on the Spectrum. It's a horrible, horrible, horrible colour scheme, and you can barely do anything with it.
It's so 1980s.
And you'll notice that I don't think you can even see it, but I've got the magical scan line. But you are heavily restricted, and obviously when you zoom in, you can see exactly what you're drawing and where the colours are disappearing. So I'm not allowed another colour in there. If I was to sort of take out those black bits until we've got a dominant colour, then yeah, I am allowed it, because there's only 2 colours in there. So it does it sort of fairly simply when it decides what colours to pick. It's just the most popular colours within that block when you draw. So you can draw over the top, and then when you release the mouse pointer, it sort of snaps and fixes the attributes so that it's proper Spectrum.
I know that you got it zoomed in. You can see that's a new addition there, which is the black line.
Yep.
Guidelines.
The black lines were previously, it didn't sort of break it down into characters very much, but now it uses an 8x8 block, the grid size, so that you can see which character you're in, which is very useful, actually.
Very, very useful, yeah.
Because it helps you see whereabouts on the screen you are and where the 8x8 block or whatever block size you set the grid to. You can't actually set the grid.
Yet.
Well, you can in the code, but I never actually remembered to make any sort of GUI for it. So although you can adjust the grid to any number you want, you can't actually do it in the program at the moment. You should probably add that.
You should. Well, it's for our next release then.
The other thing that we've added that is nothing to do with these things.
Did you have that before?
No, this is new.
Okay, that's new. Well, that's
but you'll notice that this is stuff that I talked about in the last video, but then never released. So we don't need to mention that. Does that make sense?
I suppose.
By the way, the Spectrum works best if you knock the bloom down a bit. Down to about 0.5, I think is about right. Possibly even just take it off entirely for Spectrum, because it's very...
It's an optical illusion there between the cyan and magenta for some reason.
No, it is blurring.
It is blurring.
It is blurring.
Because of the scan line.
Yep, the scan line. It's got the scan line filter on it, so it's
wonder.
it's blurring. If I take the black lines off, that looks a bit better, I think.
Oh, that's nice. That is so cool. Feels like a dungeon crawler. Zoom in. Yes. I'm playing a game right now. Oh, that's a horrible map.
But it's very retro-tastic sort of thing.
That's great.
Show you the horror of attribute clashes if I do
Ooh,
that.
ooh, that looks like a real map. Oh no, it doesn't. No, it's just.
Let's just try and make this a colourful screen, right? Just to show it. Do you see that? See what it did then?
I'm sorry about that.
So yeah, you can make that, and that is what a spectrum looks like when it crashes as well. So that's how you know it's realistic. What else do we have?
Did you mention the 2 new palettes?
2 new palettes. Oh, the default palette is now Swanky paint. So if you go back to new and you don't select spectrum or whatever, and it's still set to spectrum. Actually, the best way of doing that is just to quit.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't really sort of set up that stuff very well. If you just quit, anyway, the default palette when you load up is now the Swanky 32.
That's a new swanky palette.
Which is this palette here. Mm-hmm. This is 32 colours. First one is transparent, so 31 colours and 1 transparency. And it's just based on a 16 colour palette, which is just blended between each between each palette entry. But it gives you a reasonable range, and as you can see, the new Swan King, the mascot, obviously.
Swan King. Hail the Swan King.
Yes, that guy is there. And I think, I'm sure that we may need some other stuff.
Oh, well, if you want to read more about the what actual colors are in the Swanky 32, we also have a Swanky 16 palette. It's in the blog post on paint.lo4d.net, which is our Swanky art community. So you just go there and there's a blog post and you can read all about it over there. There is the you've added some frames. Did we talk about the animation?
I don't think we talked about the animation.
There is actually animation in here.
There is a very basic animation which follows the D-Paint keys.
Yep.
And best way of doing that. Is if I just show the block, and we can add frames. At the moment, see, it's only got 1. So if we add a frame 2, add a frame, now 3, add a frame, so we've now got 4 frames, and you can move between them with 1 and 2 on the keyboard. So 1 and 2 moves you between the frames, which you can see displayed up here in the little title bar. So you can draw something, move forward a frame, draw something, move forward a frame, draw something, move forward a frame, draw something, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can do sort of, it's enough to do sort of basic walk animation.
Pretty simple.
Yeah, it's all I used to use was just 1 and 2 continuously in D-Paint. So there is basic animation. When it comes to exporting it, only exports as GIF, because that's sort of the only standard animation format that there is.
Yeah. So this makes animated GIFs.
Yes, you're making animated GIFs.
There you go, and we have, I think, is that new at the top right, the save button?
The save button was added for the online version, and all it does is just goes to the save.
Which is great. I mean, if you want to do it fast.
Yeah, and it remembers if you've made a difference, so it changes from slightly red to slightly green.
Yeah.
So that you can see if you've edited a file. And yeah, I think that'll do. That'll do, because we've got about 15 minutes here. So I'm going to call that a release, and you can download that at the usual places on Download. And I'll put some links along with this blog post for a few free versions.
Free versions if you're fast. And, you can just look around. There's lots of new things that we might have forgotten.
We've forgotten everything, probably.
Yeah, so it's been quite a while since we've released the new version. And we've added a lot of new stuff. So have a look around, and if there are any bugs, do let us know. That would be great. And if you're... Ooh, what's that?
That was one of my. That's me drawing the swan, wasn't it?
It's very nice. It's very swanky. And there you go. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Someone pressed the button.